Hey folks, thanks for joining us for episode 16 of the Dine Sports YouTube page and podcast network. Today we're going to be talking all things golf, and we've got a phenomenal guest joining us today to walk us through what it's like to play at the collegiate level and also competing in local high-level amateur tournaments and all of that as well too. Sheila McKeen is a graduate of the professional golf management program at Humber College, and while she was there, she was actually captain of the women's golf team and was fortunate enough to actually capture both a provincial and a national title while she was out at Humber there. So definitely some cool experiences there. And since she's finished her schooling, she is now began working at the Ottawa Hunt Club and competes locally as well too. And one of her home courses there is the Royal Ottawa, which is a beautiful golf course right here in the nation's capital. And she is actually the 6 years in a row running women's champion for the club, which is no small feat because at that kind of club and facility they've got some phenomenal golfers there. So it's not not just some weekend warriors she's beating out for that, and to be able to have that kind of sustained success for so long is it's pretty impressive. So we sit down with her and sort of unpack how she got started and where she sees the game going, and all that and more. So hope you guys had a great Canada Day and enjoy this episode. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Dine Sports YouTube page and podcast network. Joining me today, we have Sheila McKeen. Sheila, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, we're happy to have you. You've had a pretty extensive golf career, so let's start at the very beginning here, at a young age. So you started playing at age 10 or somewhere
Yep.
around there.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, so who was it that first introduced you to the sport of golf, and how did you sort of first get involved?
Yeah, so my grandfather was a golfer, and he got my mom into the game at a young age, kind of like the way I started. And so my mom ultimately got me involved with her dad, and they were longtime members over at the Royal Ottawa Golf Club. And so they kind of got me into junior clinics and all that kind of thing. But like I started doing all the like day camps and sports camps and everything. So I kind of just kept going with the golf side of things. So it was about 10 years old, and I joined the Royal when I was about 10 years old as well. So and I've been there ever since, which is nice.
Right on, right on.
Mm.
So, obviously when you're first trying out a sport, you probably grew up playing all sorts of different sports as well too, right? So, around what age would you say that golf started becoming more of a primary focus for you, and you started really training to not only just have fun, but training to compete in that?
So growing up, I didn't compete too much. I always went away to summer overnight camp when I was a kid. So I was golfing in the spring and the fall, and then heading to camp for the summer. But I played in like junior tournaments a little bit and club events over at the Royal. But it wasn't until I stopped going to camp where I actually really got into competing. So I'd say not until I was about 20 was when I started competing, and then I kind of just got like hooked. I've always been a really competitive person. Like I grew up playing hockey and soccer and baseball. So when I was younger, even around the time that I was going to summer camps, I was still playing soccer during the summers. So my mom and dad said, you have to make a decision here. You can't play baseball, soccer, and golf. What is it that you really want to do? So I picked golf ultimately. And then when I was, around 13 or so, I was getting pretty good at golf. And my parents, they had that talk with me, like, do you want to play golf or do you want to go to camp? And then that was a tough decision because I loved going to summer camp. And I was like, I can play golf my entire life, but I can't go to camp my entire life. So golf took a little bit of a pause because I ended up being staff at the summer camp and going for, 2-3 months at a time. But again, when I come home, I'd golf constantly. So got my fix in.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And so, you touched on it there. You grew up playing a lot of team sports, right? So,
Mm.
baseball, soccer, all that there. What was it like sort of transitioning when you did decide to start competing, going from
Mm.
that team sport environment to, an individual sport like golf?
Yeah. So I think what I like most about golf is that it is individual. So it's all, everything you do is yourself. You're not relying on, unless you have a caddy, but you're kind of, it's yourself, right? So I love going out there by myself if it's like, after work, 5 o'clock, hitting golf balls alone, playing quickly by yourself. It's kind of, it's a nice relaxing time for me. And again, if I play bad, it's my fault. I can't blame anybody else on it. And so I know that I can work on the things that I need to work on myself, right?
Yeah.
But again, I love team sports. I like, I still play some, rec soccer leagues and stuff like that. So I fix in with the team sports that way. And at work, we work in a team everywhere in the workplace, right? So we get that fix in there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, for those that are listening right now, it's nice to hear some people say that golf is relaxing, because for a lot of people, it can be a pretty frustrating sport as well, too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I like what sometimes I race over from work to the golf club, sit in traffic for 45 minutes to an hour, not during COVID, obviously, this was last summer. And I'd be so stressed, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should play golf today, but like, I'm just feeling horrible. And then I get to the golf club, I like hit a golf ball, and I'm just like, oh, this is my happy place. I can
Yeah.
relax now.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
So, school-wise, you actually started out, you went to Acadia University, ended up graduating from there with a degree in kinesiology, but then you actually made the decision to go back to school. So then you re-enrolled at Humber College for their professional golf management program. What was it that made you sort of decide to go back to school for that sort of second diploma or degree there?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll go back to Acadia there. I like playing sports was my favorite thing in high school, right? And when they were like, oh, you go to university, pick something you want to study. So obviously I love sports, so kinesiology was it. So graduated in 2012, and I worked as a kinesiologist for a while, ultimately with the goal of becoming a physiotherapist, and which is what most jocks want to do, right? So worked in that field for a few years, and then realized that it wasn't for me. So and again, while doing this, like golfing constantly and competing a little bit in like the Ottawa Valley tournaments, like the OVGA stuff, Ottawa Valley Golf Association, through the Royal, and realizing that I was just getting better and better at golf without too much coaching. Like I never really had that much consistent coaching I just kind of worked on it myself. So then I decided that I would go traveling for a little bit. My boyfriend at the time, now fiance, he was studying in Ireland. He was going to school there. So I decided to move to Ireland, and which is awesome for golf.
Yeah.
So got to play some golf. Was planning on staying there for years, and couldn't find a good job. Couldn't pay for all the golf that I wanted to play, that kind of stuff. So I had to make a decision on like, what was I going to do if I went back home? Don't want to be a physiotherapist, like not sure what kind of job will be there for me when I go home. So it's like, I should probably go back to school. And then this professional golf management program has kind of always been in the back of my mind, because it's a business diploma, an advanced diploma, and so it's a business administration program. So I said, a good thing to do would be, if I go back to school, do some business stuff, and then at the same time you can specialize in golf, which will kind of lead the path to becoming a golf pro as well. So that was just a cool idea at the time, and I was like, maybe I should go for it. So got in. You can do it right out of high school, so it's pretty easy to get in. And so I moved back home and went to Humber that fall, moved to Toronto, and it was great.
Yeah.
It was good,
And the
yeah.
rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Well,
Yeah.
and I mean, one of the things that athletes are hearing all the time too, especially those that want to play at whether the collegiate level, the university level, or down south
Mhm.
in the States or whatever, is always making sure that, you find a school that's a good fit for you, right?
Mhm.
And so you actually experienced both things, right? So you did 4 years at a university, and then you actually did the collegiate level as well too.
Yep.
So for those athletes who are trying to decide, what path do I take? Do I go, OCAA? Do I go U Sports? Or do I go NCAA? What were some of the sort of differences that you notice, both in terms of, campus, lifestyle, classroom sizes? What was your experience between university versus college?
Mhm. So when I was at Acadia, they didn't have a golf team, so I didn't play golf for them at all. But Acadia being a really small school, um, it was great for class sizes. I actually played a little bit of. It wasn't a varsity team. It was, I guess, a rec team of field hockey when I was there for a little bit, which was really fun. But I know that with small universities, I had a lot of friends who were on varsity teams there. Studying kinesiology, you kind of like surround yourself with all the varsity athletes there. Um, it was a great place to be a varsity athlete. Being a small school, like you get to know, all of your peers. Like so many students go out to all the big games, that kind of thing. So it's a really fun, great community for athletes. And I know every school has different funding for their sports or their athletics departments, but I think Acadia was pretty good. They had really great like football programs, that kind of thing. But I know that the students, it can be a hard balance between getting your schoolwork done, getting good grades so you can stay on the team, that kind of thing, showing up to practice, workouts, all that. So I know that like there was so much support for every athlete in regards to that. So that was good. Now going to Humber and being an athlete there was awesome. I don't know what it was like to be an athlete at Acadia. I just being around them, I got that idea. But
Yeah.
like Humber their athletics program is huge, and they have like some of the best teams in the country. Like their basketball is really great, volleyball, everything. The golf teams have been really good. Like for years, they're known for having one of the best men's golf team. They won the like national championships 10 years in a row, something like that. So there was a ton of support for the golf teams, which was great. And the athletics director there used to be the program coordinator for the golf management program. So he was really good for the golf team. But again, like you get great coaches. There's so much support helping with that, sport workload at school, making sure you can get all your work done because you have to maintain a certain GPA to be able to compete, that kind of thing. So I think it opened up a lot of doors for me professionally as well. Just making so many connections through different teams and knowing like the athletics department, that kind of thing. Golf is much bigger in Toronto than it is, or like the GTA than it is in Ottawa. So I got to know a lot of golf industry professionals through Humber, which really helped. Like you could get a job anywhere in the GTA if you just kind of are personable and can have a conversation with someone, which is really nice. So
Yeah.
that's a good part of doing that. And I know that in the States, it's tough especially if you're Canadian and you want to go down there on a scholarship for golf, that kind of thing. I know it's for every sport it's like this, but if you get an injury that can drop you in a second, right? I know that at Humber, there's great resources for you if you do have an injury. They do rehab and all that stuff. They try and keep you in there. They give you a lot of free services, and it's really great. I loved it there.
Nice. So again, you got best of both worlds there in terms of your experience then. Right on. So I mean, sticking with Humber, so you ended up being not only on the golf team, but you were actually captain of the women's golf team there, and
Yeah.
had quite a bit of success as well too, right? You won national championship, provincial championship,
Yeah.
all sorts of accolades there.
Mhm.
What goes into building a successful golf team when it's such an individual sport like golf there? Like, what are some of
Yeah.
the things that you sort of need to make mesh so that you guys do have team success rather than just, oh, well, one person shot really well and the other, rest of the team
Mhm.
didn't even make the cut type thing?
Yeah, it's about like it's kind of lame to say, but like team synergy, right? Um, it's important to be close with your team. Like women's golf teams are only 4 people, right? The men's team is bigger, but we had at the most 4 girls. So I mean, showing up to practice together, going and doing your workouts together, that kind of thing. We would, you know, hang out outside of school as well, just to make sure that we can, I don't know, keep the good vibes going on and off the golf course, right? So, um, and again, helping if like we had one of the girls on the team sometimes would, struggle with her academics. So we would make sure she knew that she had the support and that kind of thing. But again, it's all about creating that on and off the golf course relationship. But it is tough, like with it being an individual sport, but it's good at the same time. Like you can, and in these tournaments too, they take team scores and individual scores, so you can make it an individual type of tournament for yourself. And then if you're not playing so well one day, but the rest of your team is, you can still, come out with a win. So
Yeah.
it's nice. You can rely, you can count on those girls, and we're all in it together, that kind of thing. So it's nice.
Nice. And so for those that are listening right now who might not be familiar with sort of the format at the collegiate level there, is it more so like you were saying, your individual scores, they all get amalgamated, or are there certain tournaments where it's like Ryder Cup style, where there's match play, there's, alternate
Yeah,
shots?
there's more of that match play style Ryder Cup stuff. I think there's more tournaments like that in the States. There's just more tournaments, period, in the States, just because, there's better weather down south, that kind of thing. But for us, our tournaments, we would have to squeeze in a lot of them in the fall and the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of like going to middle of nowhere Ontario one weekend, and then the other side of Ontario the next, and then if you make it to the nationals, you're flying to BC last minute. So it's crazy. But these tournaments, so you play usually for the just regular rounds before provincials, just the kind of invitationals from the other schools. Those tournaments, it's usually 2 rounds. And you would, for the girls, you would play for an individual position as well as a team, like your team score. So usually they would take 3 out of 4 of the scores of the girls playing on your team. So if someone has a bad day, it's okay. And then for provincials, you'd do 3 rounds, and they'd pick again best 3 out of 4 scores. And then if you make it to nationals, it's 4 rounds. And the same thing, I believe. It's been a little bit of time, but I think it was 4 days.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've done that. I wish I was playing competitively like that, but yeah.
Right on. So, one person can blow up, but you can't have 2 people blow up if you want a good team score.
Exactly.
Nice.
You're hoping if you make like a triple out there, you're having a bad day, you're like, oh man, I hope they're doing well right now, because I certainly am not contributing much right now.
Yeah. And like you said, the glories of living in Canada there is you're so seasonally dependent there, where it's not like you're down in Arizona State where you can golf 360 out of 365 days a year, right?
Yeah, and even the schools out west, like University of Victoria or the colleges out there, they can play year round mostly. So we do, when you're in college, you have the Canadian College Athletic Association Nationals, so the CCAAs. But then if you place top 2 at those, you can qualify for the Golf Canada National Championships, which is the University College National Championships. So that's really cool that the university students can't compete in the college ones, but we have 2 opportunities at becoming national champions, which I thought was great. So the college championships are in the fall, but the university ones are in the spring. So it's tough because you have to, and they're early in the spring. So you kind of go into nationals super cold, like you're just coming off of winter, right? So those schools out west, they're so lucky that they can, practice all winter long pretty much outside and then come in, and they're always like top contenders and every year. So
Yeah.
not bitter at all about it, but
Yeah. It's only so much you can do hitting inside a dome, eh?
Exactly.
Yeah. So now, outside of your collegiate level career, you've also been competing, in local tournaments, and you've won 6 consecutive club championships at the Royal, and so you're a fairly accomplished individual golfer as well too. Now, when you're approaching an individual event, is your mindset any different than when you're sort of approaching a team event, or is it fairly similar across the board, regardless of what event it is?
I'd say it's pretty similar. Like I've had some sports psychology, like I guess training and sessions. Humber had a sports psychologist for us, which was really cool. And I have a friend who also is a sports psychologist. So I used to be a mental case on the golf course. And I would get so nervous, and if I blew up, I couldn't be able to recover and that kind of thing. So I kind of have the same game plan going into every competitive round I play, just to try and maintain the same level throughout the whole round. So I know that golfers have we're pretty like what's the word? Oh, can I think of the word? Good and bad juju,
Yeah.
Like we have what's the word? Like Sidney Crosby wears the same jock for every game, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, so like golf is all about routine. So I always kind of go in making sure that I have the same, pre-game routine, post-game, the night before I do the same stuff. But it's good. I try and maintain the same.
Nice. So, I mean, you kind of touched on it with that answer there, but obviously when you're competing at sort of the elite levels of golf there, everyone's got the basic swing mechanics down, right? So a lot of what separates, the people who win a tournament versus those who, as you say, blow up on the course and have a meltdown is the mental side of the game, right?
Yeah.
Is there any, tip or trick that you've been either taught or you picked up over the years that you use constantly, especially in, let's say you're coming down the 16th fairway and you're trying to hold on to a 1-stroke lead there? Is there, whether it's visualization or self-talk or anything that you've really relied on over the years?
Yeah. So like you said, visualization and self-talk are huge in golf. Well, any sport really. But I think for me, I get in my head a lot. So I start, if I'm playing really well, and because I always have however many over or under par I am in my head going throughout the whole round. So I'll say like, oh, if I make a bogey, I'm like, okay, well, in the next hole, I can, just make a birdie there. And then if I get a birdie there, then I'll be even on the front. And then I can probably go a little, like, have a couple more birdies on the back nine. Like, I just get way too ahead of myself. And I just always have to kind of block that kind of those thoughts in my head. So I just kind of, try and stay in the now. That's kind of what helps me the most. So instead of thinking about, making a par or trying to make a birdie, just say, like, if you're on the tee box, just say, okay, I'm just going to put this in the middle of the fairway. Not even going to think about anything after that shot. And then once it's in the middle of the fairway, if I hit the fairway, then I'll go and say, okay, middle of the green. Middle of the green is perfect. And then if I hit the middle of the green, then I'm like, okay, let's just try and cozy it next to the hole. If it goes in, perfect, So you always have to do it one shot at a time. Never get ahead of yourself, because then you're just going to collapse. And then you start getting disappointed if you have this plan to, it's bad. But again, and visualization is huge. I find that really helps. especially with golf, because, you know, when you hit the ball, you can, if you know how to shape shots, you can try and picture yourself hitting a really nice draw, high loopy draw, that kind of thing. So, and then if you actually do it after you visualize, it's the best feeling in the world. So, especially for putting too, I think that's really important. Trying to picture that ball rolling on the exact line that you've picked after reading the green, and then, you know, seeing that ball actually doing that is pretty good feeling.
Yeah, yeah. And as someone who's suffered many a meltdown on the course over the years, there, yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I've had some big collapses in my day, so we can get into that if you want. But
Well, I mean, you know, when you are gearing up for a competition, though, right? It's there's certain things that you're going to dial in a little bit more than other things, and for the most part, the sort of stock answer is, oh yeah, I'm always dialing in my short game when I'm gearing up for a competition, and that. But sort of deeper diving that, are there any specific drills that you do leading up to a competition to really make sure that, you know, every aspect of your game is sort of dialed in as much as it can be?
yeah, so one of the things that my coaches had me do when I was at Humber is, um, before going to a tournament, you go to the driving range, and if you know the course you're playing, like pretend like you're playing that golf course on the driving range. So like if you like I would go and kind of Google each hole. Like usually golf courses online, they have descriptions and pictures and layouts and whatever. So I'd go and, you know, say like number 1, par 4, it's a little bit of a dog leg to the right, so I'd want to, you know, hit my driver. So I'd try and like maybe try and hit a cut, and then say if you hit it really well, right in the middle of the fairway, I have, you know, say 120 yards in, then you try and work through that. And then if one of your shots goes, you know, you kind of duff it or whatever, it doesn't go on target, you can practice, you can pretend like you're chipping and that kind of thing. So I find that really helps. So you can try and visualize the golf course before you're even there. So that kind of just mentally prepares you for what you're about to go, what you're about to go and play. Because, you know, when you are standing on that first tee, you know, they will announce your and whatever, and people are watching. No one really cares when they're watching. It's the other players freaking out about their own game too. But so you're just standing on that tee. If you kind of know what to expect, and you're prepared in that way, it makes things a lot easier. But again, for drills, like dialing in your short game is pretty important, right? Drive for show, putt for dough is what lots of people say. So I like to practice a lot of putting, and not even like I'll do a lot of lag putting, practice to get a feel for the greens, like that the day of the golf tournament. Always need to practice on those greens. And then I got really nervous over, you know, the like 5 to 6 footers. So I try and practice a lot of those at with different breaks.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you know, those are the ones, especially where when you're out for a round with your friends, you know, these little 3-footers, you're picking those up. Ah, that's a gimme. Yeah, you can have that, right? In a tournament, though,
knee knockers, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, when you do feel sort of those nerves setting in, right? Is there anything that you do to just, you know, steady yourself? Like, do you pull a Happy Gilmore and you go to your happy place and that in your head, or?
Like, sort of. Yeah, I think breathing is really important. It helps calm me down for sure. Almost like doing like a meditative breathing routine, just to try and really slow your heart rate down, because golfing is really hard when your heart's racing and you know like breathing really shallow and hard. So you need to calm yourself down. So again, like pre-round, sometimes if I was really nervous, I'd listen to music too, on the putting green, just so because I'd get distracted listening to other people talk about their game or something like that. Like you want to kind of shut out everything and kind of get in the zone, you know? But one of the sports psychologists that we used to work with, she always said too, if you're going to listen to music before a round, make sure that it's the most positive music you can listen to. Like even if it's an upbeat song, it could still have negative lyrics. So avoid all that. And I found that actually really worked. And then if I had, you know, a good positive song playing in my warm up, that would usually be stuck in my head for the round.
Yeah.
And then, so you're just kind of positive through the whole thing. So once
Yeah.
you get down, it's hard to get back up.
Yeah, yeah. When you're mentally in the dumps, the last thing you need is a depressing song running through your head as well, too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right on. So there's obviously different sort of levels to golf. What you would be working on to shave those last super hard strokes to get off your score are vastly different than what the weekend warrior who's trying to break 100 for the first time would be working on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for a second here, because most people fall into the latter category than the former there, is there any one thing that you see happen again and again, and whether it's swing mechanics or mentally or just even their approach to something, that you see amateur golfers making mistake wise, that it's like, that's such an easy fix if you would only blank? Like, is there one sort of go-to thing that you see pop up just so often with those weekend warriors who only get out maybe 10-15 times a year?
Yeah. There are a few things. So it's always, like, take it back to the basics. So, and this is even with me too. So if I start, hitting this like weak, I really don't like it when I hit this like high weak fade. So if the ball goes like high and to the right, and that's kind of what happens if I stop kind of focusing on what I'm doing. So, and this is the same thing for beginners or those weekend warriors. So I just step back and I take a look at my grip, my alignment, and my stance. So those are the like three basics, of golf. You have to get those down so you can, manage to hit the ball. So with grip, just make sure you're not doing something wacky. Everybody kind of has a different preferred grip, so I won't, go into that. But with stance, I would say that a lot of the times when I'm having issues, sometimes the ball's a little bit too far back in my stance and I don't realize. So, I just take a look before I hit the ball. I take a look, like, where's the ball in my stance? If I'm hitting a drive, is it too far forward, or is it like too much inside of my left foot there? So just make sure that the ball is in the right place there before you even start. Because sometimes just, even if it's, a couple centimeters off, that can make a big difference. And then with alignment too, sometimes my shoulders won't be square to my target. Things can happen like that you don't even really notice you're doing, and you think it's something in your swing, like you're off plane or whatever. But just make sure that your feet, your hips, and your shoulders are all square and aligned with each other towards where you want the ball to go. And I think usually when that happens, it's good. Like, if that gets out of whack, then things can go horribly wrong.
Yeah. And suddenly you're looking for your ball in the woods every single hole there.
Exactly. So usually it's a lot less complicated, unless you've got a wacky swing. But if you know how to golf and you've done it for a long time, and then things go horribly wrong, it's usually something really simple, and then you find it and you're like, man, that was so easy. So
Yeah. So, I mean, there's 10,000 different tools and gizmos and gadgets out there, and the bulk of them really don't do too much for the average Joe, right? But there are some that definitely work. So in your own training or anything, has there been something, whether it's a swing aid or something that you've sort of added to your practices, that has actually had some beneficial, tangible results for you?
yeah, definitely. So I, again, super simple stuff. One thing that our coaches had us do at Humber for putting is putting on a meter stick. So I went out to like Home Hardware, bought a meter stick, one of the metal ones, and you just start your ball on. There's always a little hole at the end of it for, I guess, hanging it up on a wall. Put your ball in the little hole so it can stay there, and then just practice like a smooth stroke. And if the ball, you can get the ball to roll all the way down the meter stick, you can put a little cup at the end of it and into the cup, then just, that's a perfect stroke. So, and it's a lot harder than it sounds, because if your putter face is, off by a degree, half degree, it's going to come right off that meter stick. So it really encourages you to have like perfect square impact, which is really hard to obtain. So when my putting's off, I try and do that. I try and get, 10 in a row would be really good, because it's really hard. So and it's super cheap. You can do it at home. You can do it on the golf course or on the practice green. Just make sure you're putting it on a flat surface, or else you're a goner. But that was really helpful for me again, and developing a really confident putting stroke is important. So that really helps that. And it's really satisfying. And with the metal meter stick, the material of the ball rolling on it makes a really satisfying noise too when you get it all the way down there. So that's one. Another one, there's these cool, they're called speed sticks, and it's for increasing your club head speed so you hit the ball faster. And they're just weighted. It's like it looks like a golf club without a head on the end of it, and they're weighted. And there are drills you can do with them, and it really adds distance to your game. So it gives you certain drills to do, I think, like weekly little like workouts. So you swing them a certain amount of times a certain way, and then you swing them. If you're right-handed, you swing it right-handed, and then always they get you to swing it left-handed as well. And it adds a lot of distance to your game, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go figure. It's always the little things in golf that it's a sport that sounds so easy, but then it's something's off by that much, and suddenly things are going wrong and sideways in a hurry.
Yeah, and another thing, these are really simple too. Like I've never really purchased any of those, like special tools on, if you watch Golf Channel, you see like 100 ads for all these crazy things. I've never been one to try those, but I like the basics, like getting alignment sticks, having those in your golf bag, so you can, again, if one of those things, if your alignment's off, it's really easy to just put an alignment stick on the ground at your feet to make sure you're square, that kind of thing. And you can also use them in different ways. You can stick them in the ground standing up to help with, your club path. So if you want to have a certain backswing, if you're like coming up too much in front or swinging around behind you, you can put an alignment stick, like just sticking in the ground, make sure you don't touch it on your backswing. So really simple things like that. They make difference, and they're cheap. So it's nice. You don't have to buy an expensive, fancy golf thing that's never going to work. So
yeah, cheap is good. I think everyone likes cheap solutions.
Yeah.
So, part of your, professional actual work now is you work at the Ottawa Hunt Club, you're in membership sales and services and all that there. Are there any sort of trends that you're noticing within the last couple of years? Are memberships going up? Are they decreasing? Are more women playing? Are more juniors playing? Anything like that you can point to?
Yeah, so the golf industry has been kind of struggling for the last couple of years. I think that's pretty obvious to some people, but I think high-end private clubs are doing really well. So I think the kind of middle of the ground golf clubs aren't doing very well, but I know that the Royal's doing really well, the Ottawa Hunt Club's doing very well, and then other private clubs in the GTA, I know they're all kind of doing very well, but we're doing well because we've had to adapt to the changing, environment. So we're adding new services that weren't traditionally seen at golf courses. Like people want fitness facilities at their golf club. They want more social stuff, more family-friendly things. So golf clubs where the men going to the club without their kids, getting away from the family for a little bit. So now we're trying to make it more of an inclusive environment for everybody. So that, I think, is what's working, but there needs to be more done as well. I mean, in Ottawa, we're behind the Toronto golf scene, just in terms of, our clubs don't really have room for fitness facilities and that kind of thing. And there's clubs in Toronto, and you'll see this in the States and Florida, like there's pools and full, tennis courts and that kind of thing. So we're trying to work towards that here in Ottawa, but it's a little bit more difficult just with space and money and that kind of thing. But that's the direction that things are going. People want their club to be, somewhere where you can bring the kids all day, play golf, have lunch, go for a swim, work out, do yoga class, that kind of thing. So, and even have a spa there. I know there's clubs in Toronto with barbershops in the locker room and that kind of thing. So you want to make it a one-stop shop for kind of the day and keep people there, spend their money.
Yeah.
But it also, like, with just expanding more on your question, so we are seeing more junior golfers golfing, which is great because again, kids are the future, that kind of thing. The golf industry is going to die if we don't have kids learning how to golf, right? So clubs are making a big effort to have really good junior programming nowadays. Again, it's difficult with COVID, but we're trying to develop golf camps and junior clinics, and then parent-child tournaments, that kind of thing, just to encourage the whole family to get out. And I'm seeing a lot more girls signing up, which is really nice because when I grew up playing golf, I was like one of the only few. There were maybe 3 girls playing at the Royal when we were kids. And it's really hard to, get into something when you don't have too many friends playing with you. So got to get more girls out there. I know Brooke Henderson is doing really, really good things for women and girls in golf. So that's helping a lot, which is great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you touched on such a key point there, right? Is, in order for the sport to continue to not only survive, but continue to thrive, is you need, more kids coming up through the ranks and more people just playing at that base of the pyramid as sort of they funnel up to those elite levels there, right? So do you think there's any, whether it's a magic bullet or, one or two things that need to change in the upcoming years to make it more accessible, not only maybe financially, but also just, making kids feel comfortable out on the course, where some of these places do maybe have, the, not necessarily a reputation, but sort of that old school imagery of, it is an old boys club and this is where old men go to play, right?
Yeah. I think that, just having more family friendly, aspects to your club. So maybe making Sunday afternoons on your tee sheet designate it to juniors, so that they can go out and not feel pressured from the adults. There's still a lot of those, old boys club men out there who don't want to see any juniors at golf clubs. So if we designate a certain time where it's like only juniors, that could be really helpful. I know that to make golf more accessible, not only to just the juniors, a lot of clubs are considering, instead of it being 18 holes for a round, make it 12 holes so that it doesn't take up so much time, because it is a very time consuming game, right? 4 hours to play 18 holes, you want to go warm up, you might have a drink after dinner. It's like a whole day affair. So if you make it 12 holes, you can go from the office, play 12 holes, be home in time for dinner, that kind of thing, depending on what time you play. But again, kind of switching up the traditional side of things, and making it just more accessible. And again, you said price, I guess changing the cost of things would be huge, but golf is an expensive sport. And if you want, it's expensive to play, but it's expensive to, run a facility. So if you want to play a nice golf course, you got to pay the big bucks to do so. But there's lots of opportunities. I mean, there's other courses that are great price, but it's tough to make it cheaper and then still keep that same, golf feel.
Yeah. At the end of the day, they got bills to pay just like the rest of us, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, where can people find you or learn more about, whether it's the Royal Ottawa or the Hunt Club, or even just the work that you're doing there? Where can people reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can find me on, Facebook, Instagram, that kind of thing. I'm on the Ottawa Hunt Club website, so it's ottawahuntclub.org. I'm in there, so I do the membership sales there. So if you kind of click through our membership page, you can find my email there. But yeah, you can find me. Social media is probably the best way to reach me if you have any questions, or if you want to, join the Hunt Club, you can reach out to me. Yeah, social media is probably best.
Yeah. Right on. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today and,
My
sharing some
pleasure.
tips and tricks. And yeah, hopefully someone can take something away from this and maybe shave a stroke or two or 20 off their game and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many great drills and stuff on YouTube's such a great resource to have for golf
Yeah.
drills. But always find the simple ones. Simple is best.
Simple is best. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Sheila, and best
Well,
of luck with the rest of this year and whatever sort of curveballs COVID still has in store for us
yep,
there.
you too.
And that's a wrap for another episode of the Dine Sports YouTube page and podcast network. Huge thank you goes out to Sheila McKeen for joining us today and sharing her journey in golf, and as well as some tips and tricks, not only for the amateur players, but also those who are looking to shave a stroke or two off their game. Definitely some tangible stuff, and even some drills that you can be working on at home that don't require a lot of expensive gizmos or gadgets or anything like that. As always, if you like what you see, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. We've also got various social media platforms as well. We'd love to connect with you guys on there, so be sure to check those out. We've got some more great guests coming up soon, so be sure to stick around, and hope you guys had a great Canada Day.